It has been centuries since the passing of beloved playwright and actor William Shakespeare, yet the world is still his stage and we his ever-intrigued audience. You may be asking, how is that possible? Why Shakespeare? This will all be answered in today's two-part episode of How to Read Like a Professor, titled No Escaping Shakespeare and S for Special. First up, no escaping Shakespeare. This topic answers the how question. What this means is that Shakespeare's presence is felt everywhere, in every literary form you can imagine. If you've read it, you've watched it, you've listened to it, chances are it was influenced in some sort or fashion by the bard himself. The author of the book, How to Read Like a Professor, cites his favorite example of a Shakespearean-inspired work as Angela Carter's Wise Children, a novel that alludes to Shakespeare's plays through the acts of people drowning, women dressing up as men, and probably most infamous of all, couples committing suicide. A few more examples come in.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
8030, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a wild goose chase over here at Nakatomi Plaza.
But some of you might say, well, those are just books and TV shows. Not all of us are glued to our TV screens and have our faces planted in books. And I say, right you are. If that's all Shakespeare amounted to, he'd only be a little different from any other famous writer. So now allow me to explain how Shakespeare is truly inescapable. He isn't bound and confined to literature. Shakespeare goes beyond the pages and is immortalized through each and every one of us. You may not even realize it, but we've used countless Shakespearean words and phrases throughout our life. And I'm not just talking about the lines everyone knows as Shakespeare, like, to thine own self be true, and to be or not to be. I'm talking common words and phrases like dislocate, bloody, hurry, lonely, wild goose chase, and okay, you get the point. I don't want to be here mentioning all the words. The fact of the matter is, every day, whether we know it or not, we're watching Shakespeare act and speak through different people, through a classmate's speech, a parent's scolding, a class drama, or even a lighthearted chat. Put simply, Shakespeare is beyond a literary titan. He is a magnificent termite. He's burrowed himself into the deepest corners of the world of literature, but more amazingly, into our minds. There is no escaping Shakespeare because his words are engraved in our books, our songs, our writings, and most importantly, in us, the unwitting, oblivious audience. Seated deep within each of us is a part of Shakespeare, and that is how the spirit of Shakespeare's acting lives on centuries after his passing. The second point, S for special, will answer why Shakespeare is still recognized and resonates with an audience then and now, and can be boiled down to two reasons. The first are the universal constants found in his plays. Each of Shakespeare's works contain different, yet equally important things. These things are themes of love, jealousy, greed, and countless others that remain constants that we can still relate to even today. The chapter gives us a couple examples of Shakespeare's works in which a universal theme is present. The main example is Hamlet, which comes out as a new film every few years. Yet, despite its countless reimaginings, all of them share the common theme of revenge, no matter how sweet it looks, is never the right answer. And who doesn't this apply to? Whenever any of you have been done wrong, hurt, lied to, stolen from, is your first reaction not a burning vengeance erupting from within you? Yes, it most certainly is, and Shakespeare rightfully acknowledges that through Hamlet's vengeful killings. But by showing you the catastrophe and ruin that revenge wrought in Hamlet, he also teaches you that no matter how sweet, how satisfying revenge may seem, it will lead you only to darkness and nothing more. Other examples from the chapter would include Romeo and Juliet, showcasing the strength of love, King Lear showing the human nature of good and evil always conflicting with one another. So you see, though we and Shakespeare live in a different time and different place, there is the same meditation upon common themes like greed, gratitude, miscalculation, and love, because these themes are the true timeless treasures of Shakespeare's works, mirrors that parallel our own lives, whether it be through the showing of the wickedness of greed, the power of love, blinding vengeance, and many more. The second reason is quite simple, that being the commanding authority of Shakespeare, as he's regarded by many as the greatest writer of all time. This means whenever anyone recites his lines, they're regarded as an IB 7 English student. Okay, that's not true, but by knowing and reciting Shakespeare's words, it gives what you're saying a kind of authority, as a sacred text confers authority. And on the topic of authority and importance, name another writer to whom high schoolers are subjected in each of 4 years. Who else has the council of IB people, or whatever monsters make up our torturous curriculum, deemed worthy and mandated to be studied throughout our school years? That's right, none. To sum it up, there's a kind of authority lent by someone being almost universally known, where one has only to utter certain lines and people nod their heads in recognition. Such is the commanding authority of William Shakespeare. Thus, Shakespeare's specialty as a writer who incorporates universal themes in all his works, and one whose words, lines, and phrases commands authorities due to his sheer scale of reputation, is why Shakespeare is and will continue to be prevalent now and forevermore. To pair with this extraordinary meal that is my analysis of the chapter, I've prepared a fine wine that is my own personal example, Lion King, the story of the young cub Simba's journey to take back his homeland after being exiled by his uncle Scar, who murdered his father, King Mufasa. On the other hand, you have Hamlet, the story that follows the Prince of Denmark, Hamlet, journeying his way back to Denmark after his exile at the hands of another evil dad-murdering uncle to reclaim the throne. So by looking at the general overview of the plot, we can see that Lion King is just an anthropomorphic copy of Hamlet. Or is it? For you see, there is a key difference other than the minuscule differences within the plot, era, and place. The difference has to do with the tone and conclusion of both stories. Hamlet is much more dark in nature in comparison to the more child-friendly Lion King. In Hamlet, Prince Hamlet is much less focused on the crown than he is on avenging his father by killing his uncle. This is further reinforced by his father's ghost, who urges Hamlet to avenge him, which in turn contributes to Hamlet's madness. Eventually, Hamlet does kill his uncle, but in the process, he dies, his mother dies, 2 of his childhood friends dies, the dead bodies just keep piling up. In contrast, Lion King has Simba focus on reclaiming the throne so that he may properly lead his kingdom, and that is also what his father's ghost reinforces. And in the end, the only one who dies in Lion King is Scar, who brings about his own death even after Simba spared him. So Lion King are the same, but different? Exactly! It's as the chapter said, reimaginings can take place in different times and different settings, but what always stays constant are the universal themes. Lion King and Hamlet are different in the way they choose to tell a similar plotline, but share a key similarity in the theme they show. Hamlet shows adults that revenge is never the answer by showing the circle of death and destruction that revenge caused. Meanwhile, Lion King shows children the very same theme by showing the answer to revenge: mercy. Thus, Lion King is a perfect example of the 2 points I made: the overwhelming presence of Shakespeare everywhere and the specialty of Shakespeare as shown through the prominence of his universal themes. And that, dear friends, concludes my presentation that explains why and how Shakespeare is immortalized like none other writer. He is a writer of universal themes, has an influence and authority so vast that has reached every man and woman that no writer past, present, or future can hope to hold a candle to him. So next time you read or hear something and you feel like you know where it's from, and even when you don't, it's a safe bet to say there's a little bit of old Shakespeare in there. Because when in doubt, it's from Shakespeare.